The podcast you're about to hear involves true stories, which may contain graphic content that is not suitable for children. Listener's discretion is advised. This is Esoteric Oddities.
So I learned something this weekend.
What did you learn? Lay it on me.
Slim Fast does not make a good chaser for vodka shots.
Ew, that's like milk.
Now I know that. Don't do it.
Oh my god, that's unfortunate. I can't even think of any other word to say other than unfortunate. That's gross as fuck. First of all, vodka's disgusting.
Don't judge me. Also, this morning I was going out to work and I was singing Shakira.
What song?
Whenever, wherever, naturally. And I didn't know that my neighbor was literally he was standing outside right next to my car in the blind spot where I couldn't see him. And I was having it. Normally I'd be embarrassed, but honestly, I gave him a free show. He should have paid for it.
Who cares? Who cares what anyone thinks? Besides me, because I matter.
Sometimes.
No.
Hey there, fellow creeps. Welcome back. This is Esoteric Oddities. I'm Sarah.
I'm Jonathan.
But before we get started, if you guys want to head on over to patreon.com/esotericoddities, any small donation helps us out a lot. And just you listening helps us out. If you ain't got no money and you just want to help us out, you can tell your ugly friends about us.
Yes. Keep your cents. We want change.
Keep your pennies. I want change. Yeah. So, or you can rate us. Give us a good rating. We would appreciate that.
A 5 for a jive.
I think Abe Lincoln said that, didn't he? Oh, man. So we actually received an email from Krista Lynn. It says, "Hey guys, I have been a long-time listener and your podcast makes my traffic-filled commute bearable. Not sure if you guys ever get topic requests, but I'm a sucker for stories about cults. I'm pretty sure I've listened to every episode and you haven't covered them yet. Thanks for the entertaining content. You guys rock. Keep it creepy, Krista."
You rock, Krista.
Yeah, thank you for writing. If you guys have any topic requests.
Yes,
I usually get them through
requests.
Text messages. It's usually people closer
friends,
to me.
Yeah.
But hey, y'all can send us an email and maybe we'll do it.
Maybe we'll make your dreams come true.
Probably not, but might be a mediocre way that you can meet us in the middle. Don't set your bar too high.
A mediocre attempt.
Aim for the stars, and if you fall, no wait, what is it? Aim for the moon, but if you fall, you'll land among the bronze medals.
Yeah, let's go with that.
Sure. So cults. I don't think we haven't done cults.
No.
And a couple days ago, my boyfriend, I went with Jason to go finish his sleeve tattoo. He was getting his hand tattooed. So I was like, all right, I'm going to be here for a couple hours. I might as well do research for the podcast since we were recording it early this week. So I bring my computer and everything, and I am reading through the cult that I decided to do, and some of the stuff gets a little gnarly, and I had to close my laptop, and I was stressed out a little bit. And Jason started to explain to his tattoo artist that I have a podcast. Well, we have a podcast, and the kinds of things we talk about. And he says, "Okay, well, what's your topic for this next episode? What are you doing research for?" And I said, "Cults." And he said, "Oh, the girl who's up at the front desk that you were just talking to for 20 minutes, she was in a cult." And I was like, "What?
Literally, though.
So, she heard her name. She came right down, and told me she was in a cult from ages 6 to 21. Yeah, and she told me a little bit about it. I didn't really want to, because I just met her.
Yeah.
Jason knew her, but I had just met her, and I didn't know what kind of cult it was and how it ended and if anything happened to her while she was in there. So I was just being really conscious of that. So I didn't want to ask her. I just wanted to let her tell me as much information as she wanted to, while telling her that I'm interested in it. So she told me the name of it. I did a little research. They are still around. She gave me a little bit. Honestly, I kind of want to see if she would be interested in coming on the show.
You should. I think we should really start doing that.
I think we should, but I don't. So I'm not going to name the cult. I'm not going to name the girl. But she told me about it, and she said At one point, there was like 30 of them, and they lined up. This is just one of the things she told me. They like lined up. They had a giant bowl of cereal and milk, and the first person would put as much cereal in their mouth as they could, and then they would spit it back into the bowl, and then they would everybody would do it. They would pass it down the line, and then they would go back to the first person, and then you would have to eat it. And it was like a sense of like oneness, a sense of, you know, every like community,
Right.
a communal cereal bowl. Side note, I hate when people slurp their cereal. My
I hate
brother,
when people slurp anything.
my brother's notorious for slurping cereal when we were kids, and I think he did it more just because it pissed me off.
Yeah, definitely. That's like me. Like, I hate loud eaters. That like.
Yeah. All right, we
sound
get it.
like-
We get it, Seabiscuit.
Like, just can you not?
Yeah. So yeah, I think maybe I'll reach out to her. I added her on social media.
Dude, that would be super fun.
Yeah, I'll see if she's down for it, and maybe she can give us some inside scoops. But cults today, y'all. We got cults.
And cults and more cults.
Yeah. And just really quick before I start mine, I just want to say that I decided on mine when I read a brief overview of what it was. So then I started typing it out. And once I got a little into it, I think I was a little too far into it to decide another topic. Like I had already put like a couple hours into my research. And then I was like, you know what? I kind of wish I didn't do this. It's a little gnarly, y'all. So it's just a heads up that it gets a little gruesome. So that is a warning.
Hit me with the woolly baby.
So this is the story of the Ant Hill Kids.
I almost did this one,
Oh my God.
but I decided not to.
So our guy's name is Rock Terrio, and I heard it pronounced a couple different ways. I heard it Roke, and then I heard it Rock. I'm going to say Rock. So he was born in Saguenay Valley, Canada on May 16th, 1947, into a French-Canadian family. His childhood was not good. His father was a very militant conservative Catholic and an alcoholic who would often punch young Rock in the stomach as a form of punishment. Rock was beaten and nearly paralyzed from ages 6 to 8. One day, when he was 9 years old, his father pushed him down the stairs, which resulted in Rock getting stomach ulcers. He and his siblings all dropped out of school before 8th grade, and Rock was thrown out of his childhood home in Thetford Mines at age 14. As an adult, he wrote a memoir. He found himself connecting with nature, escaping his terrible reality. He wrote that as a child, he even spent time with a wild bear and 2 cubs in the woods. As he grew older, he claimed that his large penis made him special and attractive to women. He was charming.
Naturally.
He was charming and could date almost anyone he wanted. In 1967, he was 20 years old and married a 17-year-old named Francine Granier. They lived in a home that he built himself out of lumber, and soon the couple moved to Montreal. There, he worked his job as a successful chimney inspector. In 1969, Rock and Francine had their first son, Rock Jr. The family was happy, though Rock required Francine to wear long skirts to hide her legs from the men in public. And in 1971, their second son, Francois, was born. That same year, Rock suffered from massive stomach pains, and the doctors told him that he had stomach ulcers and needed surgery immediately. He underwent 2 separate surgeries where doctors removed a large portion of his stomach. But after the second operation in the fall of 1971, Rock's stomach pains intensified and he began violently vomiting. In January 1972, he returned to the doctors and they told him he was suffering from dumping syndrome. So, according to Mayo Clinic, dumping syndrome is a condition that can develop after surgery to remove all or part of your stomach or after bypass surgery. Also called rapid gastric emptying, dumping syndrome occurs when food, especially sugar, moves from your stomach to your small bowel too quickly. Generally, you can prevent dumping syndrome by changing your diet after surgery. Changes might include eating smaller meals and limiting high-sugar foods. Keep that in the back of your pocket. So due to the constant pain, Rock turned into a very unhappy man. He began reading medical textbooks by the dozens, trying to further educate himself. His wife, Francine, noted that after the surgery was the turning point for their marriage. So Rock quit his job, and the family moved back to his childhood town of Thetford Mines. This is when Francine noticed he was acting much differently than he did before. He began demanding Francine to wear short skirts to show off her legs and figure. Sex became his obsession. Then Rock began piquing an interest in politics, and in 1975 he won a seat on the city council. He was a swindler with big ideas, memorized the municipal code book, but had no willingness to find a way to pay for his ideas. The other chairmen began to despise him after he refused to compromise and did not take criticism of his ideas very well. In May 1976, he stopped showing up for the council meetings and was eventually voted off the board. So now his family was on welfare, and Francine had growing suspicions that he was cheating on her. He stopped taking his medication for dumping syndrome and turned to alcohol as a form of self-medication to treat the constant stomach pain. Francine took up a job as a waitress to put food on the table for the family since, Rock preferred his liquor. And Francine's suspicions weren't too far off because Rock met another woman, a 24-year-old woman named Giselle. Now, Rock was alluring to her. He had a way with words. She comforted him when he told her that he was dying of cancer and that his wife, Francine, was cheating on him, both of which were not true. In the summer of 1976, he divorced Francine, convinced Giselle to quit her job, and the two traveled to sell beer mugs, which Rock carved from wood. A lost art form. Oh, God.
Is he good?
I guess we'll find out. The answer in short, no. Thank you guys for listening. So
that's it. This is Esoteric Oddities.
That's it.
Bye,
Thank
guys.
you. So it wasn't too long after this when Giselle noticed his excessive drinking habits. Rock convinced Giselle to get an apartment in Thetford Mines where his sons, who were now 7 and 5, would visit on the weekends. At the end of 1976, Rock got very passionate about religion. Let's open up this door. He said,
"What's behind door number 2? It's religion."
It's a fucked up. Okay, wait, I told myself I was going to try to stop swearing, but damn, I picked quite the episode to stop swearing. So he said he understood the Bible better than the Catholic Church. And then he used the Bible to prove that he was superior to others. And then he found the Seventh-day Adventist Church. So in short, they are a Protestant Christian denomination that emphasizes on the near future apocalypse and the second coming of Jesus. It was formally established in 1863 and promotes holistic diet and health with veganism. Vegetarianism, but maybe veganism. Potato. And they also rejected smoking tobacco and drinking alcohol.
What is Mr. Rock going to do now?
So, Mr. Rock, he put on his Speedos and he got drenched. Well, he got baptized. He got baptized by the church and convinced Giselle to convert as well. She obliged. She saw it as a good opportunity to help Rock kick his bad drinking habits and better himself. He became a vegetarian and he believed in holistic health, which decreased his stomach pains without pharmaceuticals. He would speak in church and openly discuss his past, his abusive parents, and rough childhood. His pastor began paying him to go out and sell pamphlets for the church. He became their star door-to-door salesman, using his charismatic personality to sell pamphlets and recruit new members. He was praised by the church, but in mid-1977, Rock became thirsty for power and grew jealous of his pastor, who had so many loyal followers. The church gained new members, some of which Rock decided to get close with. Among them were 3 women and 1 man. One of the females was named Solange Boulard, a 21-year-old with a history of abusive parents. Rock consoled her and shared his own story, letting her know that she was not alone and he had been through the same. On weekends, the 4 would spend nights at Giselle's place where he would preach for hours. I can just see Giselle not being down for it. Be like, okay.
There she is
Gang's
again.
here again.
Okay.
Hey guys.
Right. Just over it.
This is my small apartment and it's cool, Rock, if you want to have some friends over, but
ask me first, sweetie.
Thank you. Soon another man and another woman joined the group. Then after that, 2 more women, and a few days later, 2 more women and a child. With exception to the child, all their ages were between 18 to 25. Weeks later, Rock met a man named Jacques and his wife Maurice, and their infant son named Samuel. He convinced them to join him and his friends. There's quotes around that. Love quotes. Remember, this was the 1970s in Canada. The time was experimental in spirituality. Young people had the desire to change the world, put flowers in their hair, all that good shit, find comfort in community, and, be overall better versions of themselves, I guess.
That hasn't changed.
But
people aren't joining cults.
Oh,
that's true.
So the people Rock found seemed to be lost souls, a few homeless, others were school dropouts. They all thought that he was one of the funniest, wisest people that they had met. To them, he was a lighthearted prankster who always had people laughing and was extremely knowledgeable. I'll have you know I spelled out knowledgeable and spelled it wrong.
How did you spell it?
I don't know because autocorrect fixed it, but when I typed out knowledgeable with all the confidence that I was knowledgeable, and that little red line just mocked me from under my size 11 Helvetica text. Anyway, so Rock told them that he was looking to open a healing center focused on holistic remedies, homeopathic healing, and plant-based diets. In October 1977, the group opened a business, a healthy living clinic. He gained more followers who all worked for him. He convinced them to wear long robes and eventually give up their possessions. Giselle got concerned when the women surrounding Rock began falling in love with him. Despite this, on January 1978, Rock and Giselle decided to get married. Giselle got pregnant, but Rock gave his attention to the others in the group. So needing the love and attention of her husband, she threatened to leave the group, and in response, motherfucking Rock punched her in the face.
Classy dude.
Fucking rock'em sock'em robots.
Right? Like, is he? He just keeps going downhill.
His pregnant wife. Any huevos. Somehow, this man makes it to the hospital in spring of 1978. He was visiting. Couldn't find too many details on who he was with and why he was there, but he was probably spreading the word of some shit. So he finds a leukemia patient, a patient with leukemia, and convinces her to leave the hospital, claiming that he could cure her. So she joins the group, but soon died of her leukemia without having any medication or treatment. Without any evidence that the fault was Rock's, the police could do nothing. That summer, Rock was kicked out of the Seventh-day Adventist Church after the pastor caught on to his thirst for power and control.
Wait. He was in this?
Yeah, he was still in the church at this time. This was like
crazy.
Yeah, this was on the weekends, and he was building relationships with these people.
Okay.
And he was like, yeah, we're under this
luring
church.
them in.
Yeah.
Literally, though.
So that summer, Rock was kicked out. Yeah, I said that. Okay. On his way out, though. On his way out, babe. First, he went to the top of the altar, and he grabbed one of those little mints that they give you when you're leaving the host stand. And then he was on his way out. And then Rock convinced others from the church to follow him. He told Giselle that he wanted to start his own movement, with the goal to form a community where people could freely listen to his motivational speeches, live in unity and equality, and be free from sin, babe. Sign me up. Where can I
sign up?
Andrew Vegan? Y'all got falafels?
Y'all got scented paper?
Scented paper and falafels. What else could a girl ask for?
It.
He led them to a remote part of the Gaspésie Peninsula, where they set up tents to live in as the 12 members began gathering lumber and building a log cabin. Rock convinced them that he was Moses, telling his followers he was an Old Testament prophet. So the family of Rock's followers called police to report their growing concerns and create missing persons reports. When the police went to Giselle's apartment, which is where all the members had been seen last, they found a bag which was filled with each of the followers' identification cards. In their new land, now dubbed the Eternal Mountain by the new Moses himself, Rock, what up? He kept his followers working on the cab for long hours, and, which in turn kept them exhausted and didn't give them much time to think. Some nights he wouldn't let them sleep, convincing them, not even forcing them. He would convince them to work through the night. If you work through the night, we'll just get it done faster. You won't have to sleep in a cold tent.
One of those.
So they planted seeds to grow their own food. They ate raw vegetables and worked hard building and doing chores. Their bodies began physically breaking down. This combination of malnutrition and sleep deprivation significantly decreased their willpower and ability to see situations clearly and make rational decisions. He told the followers that the apocalypse was coming, and they only had a few months left. And he told them that massive storms, tons of rain, lots of loud-ass thunder.
I see what you did there.
What did I do?
No, the one part in Pretty Woman where she's like, big mistake. It was a big mistake. I thought you were like quoting that.
Oh, uh-huh.
Sure.
So he said that these massive storms were going to come through and they were going to kill everybody except for Rock and his followers, since he had been chosen by God as a prophet. And they were all wise to follow in his footsteps.
You mean Moses said there was a storm coming?
No, God said, because God told Moses that.
Oh.
He's Moses.
Yes, he is.
So in September of 1978, Rock gave each follower, I can read. I can also sing. Do you guys know that about me? So Rock gave each of his followers a new name. They were biblical, of course, which furthered them from their identities. So he told them that their families and the world outside were all evil. And when he talked about the outside world, he referred to it as the world of the dead. So basically, he was like creating an us versus them mentality in his followers, being like, hey, stay here in the community because it's us versus them. And when the apocalypse comes, which is pretty damn soon, we're going to have a rootin' tootin' good time while everybody's laying 6 feet under, but not 6 feet because nobody's going to be there to bury them.
Good point.
Thank you. Soon, Rock began controlling their sex lives, engaging in sexual activity with every woman in the community, something Giselle, his girlfriend, was clearly upset with. Rock was quick to flip the script and convince her that the reason he began sleeping with other women was her fault.
A grade A narcissist.
Grade A. So he would then set up competitions with his followers. He would decide to make one woman his favorite and praise her. To this, the other woman would respond trying to woo him. They would overwork themselves to impress them, please him any way they could. And I mean, any way they could. So soon the women who were concubines were now all his wives, and each was impregnated, except for Maurice, who, remember, was Jacques' wife. So his three
escalated quickly.
It sure did. Just wait. His 3 biological children he called the Chosen. And the other children who were not his own were treated like servants. So the ones who started from the beginning. Okay. So things in the small community got dark. It became a sort of divide and conquer. He split the community into 2 groups. So now he wasn't just playing favorites with one girl, he was playing favorites with groups of people.
Everybody.
And the others were pretty much just referred to as the others, who didn't really have a right to say anything and were often assigned extra chores. They would accept everything as it was, and if they spoke, they would be punished, beaten with a wooden club. Maurice, which was the only woman who Rock did not marry, was impregnated by Jacques. So one day she was very hungry, and she ate 2 pancakes. For this, Rock broke 2 of her ribs for eating without permission. Then Rock convinced Jacques to cut off one of her toes. Okay. When the couple's infant son, Samuel, misbehaved or cried too long, Rock ordered the father to roll the naked 2-year-old around in the snow. So there was another woman named Gabrielle Lavallee, and she was in her mid-20s at the time, and she says, what he built around us was the worst possible jail because we did not see the bars. It was a psychological jail, a total control of our minds. Contrary to his prior beliefs in the Seventh-day Adventist, Rock began drinking heavily again and eating junk food, and his behavior often depended on the weather. Gabrielle later said that if it was nice outside, he was in a good mood, but if it rained, he drank, and nobody knew what to expect if he drank. So then, doomsday comes, and what happens? Literally nothing. It arrived, and nothing happened at all, and to this, he said to his followers that God's concept of time was extremely different than theirs on Earth, and it must have been a miscommunication between him and Big G Dog up there. And you know what? They were all just like, yo, we get it. Like, there's that lag in communication sometimes. It's like, is it a leap year? I don't know. So they all accepted it as an explanation, and it was totally rational to them. So there was another man in the group, and he had managed to escape back to civilization, or the world of the dead, as Moses called it. So the public knew about the community in the wilderness, so he was approached by journalists. But the man convinced everybody that the community was safe, happy, and healthy.
Yikes, that's a writer.
However, he did tell the public the group's location, and in a conversation he had with a news reporter that was published in the newspaper. Also, back in civilization, Rock's first 2 sons that he had with his first wife, Francine, knew where their father was because they could read it in a newspaper now. So 12-year-old Rock Jr. and 10-year-old Francois begged Francine to let them live in the wilderness with their father. It seemed cool. We'll eat berries. We'll have fun. Marshmallows? Who's got them? I do. Bitch, you want to eat?
Abort.
We got potatoes. You like potatoes?
Not in the wilderness with that man.
Okay. Maybe inside?
Okay.
Okay, perfect.
Sold.
So she allowed it. And when the 2 sons went there, they were welcomed into the community with a huge party. After reading the newspapers, some parents, in the real world, were still pretty worried, if not more worried. And at the request, the police found the community in the woods and took Rock into custody in Quebec City. He was held for psychiatric evaluation at a prestigious hospital. When the evaluation ended, the head of the psychiatric unit called a news conference in the hospital and told the media that Rock Thériault was a great man. A prime example of who we should all strive to be. Further stating that it was terrible that the police would accuse him of being such an awful person. The psychiatrists at this well-known and respected hospital believed him so much that they sent off a mental patient named Guy to recuperate with him in the community. They thought it would be good for him.
It's a trap.
So this is a trigger warning. I know I already told you guys, but I'm going to tell you again from here on out. It gets pretty bad, like really bad. So if you're triggered by violence, abuse, anything that has to do with adults or children in that nature, I would probably skip this part. Honestly, maybe just skip until you hear Sarah's voice telling her story because...
Mine's just as bad.
All right, well then...
Skip the whole thing.
Here we go, guys. Rock put Guy in charge of the children in the community while Rock and the women went out to work. While watching the kids, 2-year-old Samuel began to cry, as young children do. In response, Guy beat him to make him stop. And unfortunately, Sam fell into a coma. When Rock and the women returned, Rock decided that in order to heal the infant, he had to circumcise it with a razor blade. Because that, gets anyone out of a coma.
What?
Not only that, but, Rock said he was going to do it himself because God gave him the gift to successfully perform surgeries. But 2-year-old Sam died on the table, not from blood loss or infection, but from alcohol poisoning, which Rock had poured down the child's throat as an anesthetic. Then, when Maurice found out that her 2-year-old had died, she was so sleep-deprived and malnourished and mentally abused that she did not know how to react. She simply continued doing her chores. So Rock convinced everyone in the community that the death was Guy's fault. And because his last kitchen table surgery went so well, Rock decided to operate on Guy, castrating him with a razor blade. A few days later, Guy escaped to civilization and told the police about the death of 2-year-old Samuel. On December 19th, 1981, Rock was found by police and arrested on the counts of the death of an infant and the castration of an adult. In September 1982, Rock was convicted and sent to jail. At this time, some followers decided to leave the community. The rest abandoned the land at the Eternal Mountain and got a house in the city near the prison where their leader was locked away. So Rock was released in February 1984. This is in 1984? Jesus. Okay. So he's released February 1984.
At least it's not now.
Could be. He convinced the group. He does a lot of convincing.
Yeah, he convinced.
So he convinced the group to leave the city and return to the wilderness again, but they could not go back to the same place, bitch. No, because everybody knows where that is. So the group headed north of Toronto to a location that was even more remote than the Eternal Mountain.
What's up with this guy and like not wanting to live in houses? Why does he always want to live in the woods?
Because it's remote. You get a bunch of people. You form a community. That's what he wanted. He wanted like his own little town.
Yeah. Oh. That makes sense.
So he brought them to Victoria County, which is an English-speaking area. I don't know if I remembered it, or I don't know if I mentioned it, but his followers only spoke French, and Rock spoke French, but he knew English well because he taught himself English as a child to feel superior to others. Remember that? So May 1984, they pitched tents and began building another cabin. I'd be fucking annoyed by that point. I'd be like, really? We spent all that time on one before?
Right. For real.
So for food, he ordered some of his followers to steal from local stores until they got caught. So then in 1985, they harvested the produce that they had managed to grow on their land, and they opened up stands on the side of the road where they sold fruits and vegetables. Come on down. We got the ripest peaches in all the land, babe. So remember, none of his followers, again, spoke English, so their interactions with customers were quite silent. Their produce sales were a success. I told you, the best peaches in all the land. And Rock worked his magic, convincing wholesalers to donate bakery equipment to him. He ain't pay shit for it. And they started a bakery. They opened up shop, and they called it the Ant Hill Kids. Cult cakes. Get your cult cakes. So he decided to call them the Anthill Kids because they had the ability to stick together like what is it called? A colony of ants. And, they built houses and carried heavy shit, I guess. But here's the really disturbing icing on the cake. The community of adults would have group orgies where everyone was encouraged to urinate in each other's mouths while Rock playfully hit them with a hammer or the blunt side of an axe. And at one of these orgies, Jacques was circumcised by the others.
What?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Then, if people fucked up, sucks for you because Rock would get them to break their own legs with sledgehammers, shoot each other in the shoulders, and eat their own feces, insects, and rats as a form of punishment. He would burn his followers by making them sit on lit stoves. Honestly, nothing was too cruel a punishment, and every time the followers forgave him as he apologized and said it was for the greater good. Because, it is. Eat shit, get lit. Am I right?
Am I right or am I right?
So at this point, Gabrielle was not impressing Rock as much as he wanted her to. So he took away Gabrielle's 2 babies that she had with him and gave them to his favorite woman of the group, who was not Giselle, his girlfriend. But honestly, I think that title's out the window. Like this guy's marbles. It's gone. Yes.
Oh, they've been gone. They were gone like 200 seasons ago. Gone with the Wind, Bullseye.
Did you just quote Toy Story?
I did.
Toy Story 2. I'm sorry, let me clarify.
No Ragrats.
So he took away the baby, gave it to his favorite, and at the time, Gabrielle rationalized that it was a sacrifice she was making for God, again, the greater good of the baby. Then Gabrielle's baby began to cry, and the women tried to change her, tried to feed her, tried singing her to sleep, but nothing was working.
Because she wanted her mom.
So drunk on alcohol and power, Rock ordered the baby to be wrapped in a blanket and left in a wheelbarrow outside in the frigid winter air for several hours. When someone was allowed to go check on her, the infant had died. Somehow, the coroner named the cause of death crib death syndrome, also known as SIDS or sudden infant death syndrome. And still to this day, Gabrielle is convinced that it was SIDS that took her baby. That's so sad. As for the other children, if well behaved, everything was peachy, but if a child was bad, he would push knives through their clothes to pin them against trees and ordered the child's mother to throw rocks at them as punishment. And if the mother refused, Rock said he would do much worse to the child. So now many social workers are looking closely at the Anthill kids, assuming that they're a cult. Rock would have some over. Social workers would visit. Everyone would be on their best behavior. They celebrated with a banquet. They would provide lots of vegetarian food that they had grown themselves. And since none of the children at the time had any visible signs of abuse, the skeptics would leave the community convinced that everything was well fed and loved. In return, this kept the community off everyone's radar. But the Anthill kids, they were very much on reporter Devi Lavaka's radar.
A radiator.
And his radiator. So, knowing the general area where the community was, she went out alone to find them. So she walked through the woods for hours and then stopped when gunfire stopped her. She crouched down and yelled that someone was there, ordering them to stop shooting. Then she decided it was dangerous, so she fled the woods, and she came back with a fellow reporter, this time in a car. When they reached the opening of the community in the woods, they were met by two women who seemed agitated that they weren't really expecting anyone for dinner.
Ooh.
Y'all didn't RSVP.
They were like smiles, but really aggressive.
Yeah.
We weren't expecting anyone.
Yeah, you didn't respond to the Facebook invite.
So we assumed you weren't coming.
I didn't make enough empanadas. So when the reporters wouldn't leave, they were taken to the main cabin. There, 13 young children sat at a long table. Yes, there were 13 children by this time. Not a sound was made, no fidgeting, no talking, nothing. Rock entered the building, and Debbie knew immediately that this man had somehow convinced all these women to live here, be his wives, and have their children. He was philosophical, and Debbie thought he was a con man. Well, Debbie.
You were right. Everyone else was wrong.
She asked him about his 7 wives, and he said they're not his wives in the conventional way. He said that the women loved him. He loved them back, and the babies, they just came naturally. We're just a small community. We're just a couple of vegans running a little bakery. You been to our bakery, Anthill kids? Maybe you heard of us? Here's my card. We don't have a phone.
You gotta come
Send
visit.
us a letter. No, please don't visit. So in October of 1985, Maurice escaped with her 2 children. Social workers interviewed her, and she told them that Rock abused the children both physically and sexually, and it was the evidence that they needed. So on December 6th, 1985, social workers arrived on the land, took away the other 11 children, and told the women that if they wanted to keep the children, they had to leave Rock and get mentally and physically evaluated at a hospital.
Oh, God.
They were just trying to get everybody the hell out of there. If the woman chose to stay, the children would be put up for adoption. Not a single mother went with their child. Somehow, Rock remained a free man. They couldn't gather the evidence they wanted to get this dude outie 5 So with the children gone, if y'all are eating, put a pause on it. With the children gone, Rock grew angry, and his followers had to pay. He burned some with a torch. He pulled some teeth out. He chose one of the strongest women in the group, Solange. Rock told her and the others that the devil was in her and dragged her deep into the woods alone. The rest of the followers heard terrifying screams. She came back in a pitiful state and never told anybody what happened in the woods that day. In fall of 1988, Solange complained of stomach pains, which, something Rock was familiar with. He ordered her to get naked and lay on the kitchen table for yet another surgery. He took an enema filled with oil, water, and molasses and injected it in her. A few of the other wives stood by the table acting as nurses. Using an unsanitized kitchen knife, he cut her stomach open and began pulling out her intestines with his dirty hands. According to Gabrielle, Solange was in a state of calm and peace as her stomach was wide open. He ordered Gabrielle to stitch her closed with a sewing needle and thread. Solange died the next morning. Okay. Rock removed 2 of her ribs and strung them on a necklace which he wore daily.
Okay, first of all, that's so long. A rib cage is like,
It was probably her bottom rib.
but still, it's
Yeah.
like you're extra. Get the fuck over yourself.
Well, I think the rib, my assumption would be because of the biblical sense of like, Adam and Eve, human growing from the rib.
Oh, right.
So I don't know what he was getting at there, but
Damn
all right.
Moses.
So in July of the following year, Rock grabbed Gabrielle, put her hand on the table, stabbed a knife through her flesh to the table, which pinned her there. He tortured her with a hooked carpet cutting knife for over an hour. He took a cleaver and broke her arm, then cut off her arm with the knife. Gabrielle said that this was the moment when the god she had turned her back on, the one she had left to join the Anthill kids, came back. She felt as if he said, "I love you." She said this was the key that opened the psychological jail to recover my critical judgment and realize this guy who said he was representative of God was not at all. I can't even make comments to that. He was the devil. I saw the devil. I was going to say it took her long enough. Like, this was it. This was the key that made you wake the fuck up.
It's like you can't.
But I can't because, I mean,
People are like, it's literally going back to what I talked about maybe 2 episodes ago. It's like when your body is induced with a lot of trauma, it literally will release something to make you forget about it because your body's like trying to protect itself. So, like, again, that's why people stay with their abusers. Like,
exactly. And, like, she was one of the women who had a history of like abused childhood. And when Gabrielle's limb began to heal, Rock pressed a molten piece of iron to it. Rock amputated parts of her breasts and smashed her in the head with the butt of an axe, which they found out later had actually fractured her skull. Using pliers, he pulled out 8 of her teeth, and he used a blowtorch to scorch her genitals. Somehow, she survived the brutal mutation and torture, and 19 days later, Gabrielle escaped. August 14th, 1989, a day she celebrates just as much as her birthday. She made her way through the dense woods and made it to authorities. At the hospital, the doctors said it was a miracle that she was alive. She was helped by 2 men, 1 surgeon and 1 police officer, who she said instantly began repairing her psychological damage when she began realizing that there were kind human beings in the world who were there to help her. She had been taught from a young age that all men were the same, and for the first time she realized that this was not true. So then the manhunt for Rock began. By the time authorities found the community site, almost all of the followers had fled. After 6 weeks, on October 6th, 1989, 12 years after it began, the Anthill kids ended. Police found Rock with 2 wives and 1 man who remained by his side. He was arrested and taken away. I'm pretty sure the other 3 were arrested also. And I think I've seen a photo of them in court together, but I'm not exactly sure who was there. I think it was Jacques and then 1 other woman or 2 other women. So he was tried only for the 2nd-degree murder of Solange Boulard and 84 different counts of brutality. All but 3 of his followers testified against him. The jury found him guilty, and he was sentenced to 10 years to life with the possibility of parole. Not enough if you X me. So remember that he was the reason that a leukemia patient, 2-year-old Samuel, and one of Gabrielle's baby died. And he was only tried for the death of Solange. Also, all the crazy shit that he did for 12 years. 12 years. Think about that. I haven't even lived in this state for 12 consecutive years.
He's running around causing all this havoc.
Every single day. They don't communicate with anybody outside of the community for 12 years. So then in the 1990s, Gabrielle wrote a book, went on tour to schools and women groups, warning the dangers of cults and signs of manipulative people. The message,
I love that. Red flag.
The message she wanted to send was about happiness. She said, "It's not out there. We have to find it within ourselves. It's there." Years later, Gabrielle got to meet the daughter she had lost to the adoption. Remember, one of her babies was given away and killed, and the other one was given up for adoption because she wouldn't leave. So she lost both of her babies. She got somehow in contact with the parents, and she got to meet her daughter. So I'm no doctor, but Rock most likely had narcissistic personality disorder, among other things, and he clearly suffered delusions of grandeur, but that's pretty fucking obvious. So, from the beginning, he played the victim. He used his story of, his childhood to gain sympathy, trust, and forgiveness, blah, 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 blah. For all 12 years, he had those people, and then some from everyone he could convince in his life prior to that. Even the fucking psychiatric people.
Yes, I thought that was bizarre. Like, that really, blew me.
Excuse me?
Right. Excuse me, bitch?
Almost everything, all the actions he took, everything he was doing, he says was because of his parents who began abusing him at age 2. But there's one little problem. Almost everything he said about his childhood was a lie.
Wait.
He was never seriously beaten or thrown down the stairs. He was never nearly paralyzed, nor did he get kicked out of his house at age 14. In reality, his father barely drank alcohol. Everything I told you at the beginning of the story prior to his first wedding with Francine was a lie.
Yo, honestly...
Do you feel bamboozled? You believed me. See how easy it was? So contrary to everything he said, Rock's childhood was relatively normal, besides the fact he himself was extremely manipulative. He would get caught smoking, drinking, or skipping school, and he always had an excuse as to why it would be somebody else's fault, never taking responsibility for his actions. When he was 6, the family moved to Thetford Mines, and that is when he began reading books, tons of books. His teachers liked him. They found him to be smart. He was nice to other kids. He was never a bully. He spoke French, but then he learned to speak English on his own, which was, again, something that nobody in his family did, which made him feel superior to them. So he taught himself English to feel superior to his own family. Then the manipulative asshole grew up, got married to his first wife, Francine, and everything I told you after that was true. So after all of this, 3 of Rock's wives decided to live near his prison. They visited him frequently, as frequent as they could, and collectively opened a new bakery. By 2010, Rock had fathered 26 children.
Yikes.
On February 26, 2011, at Dorchester Penitentiary in New Brunswick, 63-year-old Rock was found dead near his cell. His cellmate, 60-year-old Matthew McDonald, pled guilty to the second-degree murder. He admitted to stabbing Rock in the neck with a homemade knife and was sentenced to life in prison. But this didn't matter to him because he was already serving a life sentence for a previous murder charge. Immediately after the murder, McDonald walked to the guard's station, handed them the knife, stating, "That piece of shit is down on the range. Here's the knife. I've sliced him up." And that is the Anthill Kids. I texted Sarah last night and
I'm not okay.
I texted Sarah last night and I was, again, too deep into it. And I was like, girl, this changed my mood for the night.
It changed my mood. I don't even know how I'm going to deliver my story.
Disturbing.
No, it's disturbing that everything was a lie.
Everything was a lie. And there were children there, kids who were born into a community. I'm going to call them a cult. I'm going to go ahead and pinpoint that this indeed was a cult, if anybody was skeptical. Fuck, man. These children are fucked for life, and they're not even that old. People who were born in,
okay, but the
late
women?
80s.
The women?
The women also. Right. I'm not... Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
I'm not saying that you're saying that that's, worse than the children, but it's the women literally were so manipulated that they chose... I'm going to call him Moses because I don't know who Rock is.
Just call him Rock because he doesn't deserve Moses. The fuck?
He doesn't even deserve a name.
Rock.
Blank.
Let's refer to him as a rock. Like a little fucking...
No, he's a fucking crumb.
Let's call him Crumb. I don't know why I said that 3 times. It's almost like Beetlejuice. What if he fucking appeared right here? God damn it. It is insane how somebody can have so much mind control over somebody. Literally insane. It is not sane. And if you guys have ever been in a cult or were associated or knew somebody who was associated or in a cult, please email us at odditiespodcast@gmail.com.
All right. So I guess I'm up.
You're up to bat, babe.
I honestly don't even... So my throat hurts and my voice may cut in and out of this, so bear with me, please.
Please and thank you.
All right, losers, let's jump into this. On August 22nd, 1946, Marcus Delon Wesson was born.
I don't think I know who this is.
I'm really glad because I was really scared you would.
Okay. Well, maybe if I know the name of the call.
There really was no name.
Oh, amazing.
You'll find out why in a second. A Kansas native, Wesson grew up being drilled by religion and devotion to God. Wesson was also abused by his alcoholic father. The family relocated to California, where Wesson spent his teenage years and then eventually served time in the Army before returning back to California. Wesson ended up settling in San Jose, California, where he met Rosemary Solario. Already being married, Rosemary left her husband and moved in with Wesson and brought her children with her. Rosemary gave birth to Wesson's first daughter in 1971. While Wesson looked after Rosemary's other kids, he was working on a plan.
Rosemary's Baby. God, come on. You had one chance. You could have said while he watched over Rosemary's Baby and you didn't execute it properly. I'm disappointed.
Because it was The Baby and Other Children.
I wanted you to say the title of the movie.
I didn't even think of that while writing this. I was so it didn't even pop into my head.
Okay.
Wesson spent time grooming their 6-year-old Elizabeth into thinking that God had selected her to be his next bride.
Jesus.
At age 27, Wesson married, that's in quotes because, 8-year-old Elizabeth in an unofficial ceremony. They legally wed after Elizabeth turned 15, and Wesson got her pregnant.
I'm going to barf.
He said that I belonged to him, that I was already his wife, Elizabeth said. During the course of 16 years, the couple birthed 10 children.
No. Oh, my God. I cannot believe that there are people out there that... Okay.
It gets worse.
Uh-huh. Can't wait.
In total, Marcus fathered 18 children by Elizabeth, the daughters he had with Elizabeth, and several nieces.
Whoa. What? So that's technically his half grandchild, half daughter, then having
and then
his
half son. Yeah. So through the years, the children experienced rape, incest, torture, and brainwashing. Marcus Wesson had bizarre beliefs such as him being God, and them together would create his own vision. Wesson then drilled these bizarre beliefs into his family. He wrote his own version of the Bible. He also told his family the end was near. For years, he warned his wife and children to prepare for the day when the devil with a badge and a blue uniform would show up at the door. So, out of pure anger, Wesson killed 9 out of his 18 children.
Out of pure anger?
Yeah, he was just angry. Shooting each one through the eye in a room piled with stolen coffins, from 20-year-old Sabrina to 18-year-old Jeva, who was Wesson's toddler son and grandson. While on trial, Wesson claimed his daughter Sabrina committed the murders, and then shot herself through the eye. It proved effective enough defense that the jury didn't conclude that Wesson committed the crime.
What?
Another master manipulator. So we know that in order to start a cult, you have to be a master manipulator. So don't. I
literally I couldn't even sell shit for Arbonne. But I would be like, hey,
do you
look
want
at
these
this
knives?
Look at Arbonne's not knives.
Oh,
fuck you. I would be like, hey, look at this face moisturizer. Do you like it? They'd be like, no. I'd be like, yeah, do me neither.
I don't
Burn
neither.
it.
Fuck this.
Burn it.
It's $15. I think it's worth $6.
Hate it.
How did
you know what? I'll
for 5
pay
years?
you.
I'll pay you to not try this product.
Literally, if I'm trying to work for Arbonne in the future, I'm gonna have to delete this episode.
That's true. I don't think you'll ever do that.
I don't think I will.
You're not a door-to-door sales type.
I already worked for Lurch.
Wesson's role model was David Koresh. And during the 1993 siege of Koresh's compound in Waco, he told the family, "This is how the world is attacking God's people. This man is just like me. He's making children for the Lord. That's what we should be doing, making children for the Lord."
And then killing them when we're pissed. I want to see what this guy looks like.
Oh, you're going to have a great time.
All right, after you're done telling the story, I'm going to look it up.
He homeschooled the family in a series of hideaways along the California coast.
How long of a span was it? It wasn't just in one house?
It was 10 years.
No, not time span. How many miles? If he up and down the coast?
Yeah, he just didn't care. He would just
on the move.
He would basically had to make hiding spots. for these people, so one, the police wouldn't find them, and then he basically had to lie because they weren't going to school. And then I'll get into this, but at one point he never worked. So when he was like filing for like, you know, food stamps and stuff, he had to like say that he had kids. So they were like, okay, well, why don't your children go to school?
Where are they at?
So he homeschooled the family in a series of hideaways along the California coast. One of the places was Tamales Bay, south of San Francisco, where he anchored a rusted-out sailboat and hid the children.
In a sailboat?
Yeah. Wesson forbid the children to attend school and instead schooled them with his own twisted take on Christianity, where Jesus Christ of the Bible was a vampire.
Listen, it's one thing to have a creative writing class, okay? I'm all about using your goddamn animation. Emanation.
Imagination.
That too. But come on.
Wesson also said he himself was Jesus Christ.
They always are.
Many lessons were provided, making sure the students, that's in quotes because they were his children, understood Wesson's total control over them.
Jesus, next thing we know, he's going to be teaching them algebra and how to balance a checkbook.
Discipline involved frequent bloody beatings with sticks and wire cables. Anyone who thought of leaving or alerting the outside world was promised painful death. The boys could not talk to the girls, and the girls were forced to sexually service Wesson.
No.
So the boys would get beat, and the girls would get sexually abused.
Damn, this was like a doozy of an episode. Are you happy, Krista?
Yikes.
I know, I'm sorry. She didn't ask for this, and honestly, I didn't know that. Oh my God, I'm stressed out.
In time, Wesson married 6 of his biological daughters and nieces when they were in between the ages of 7 and 9, and eventually got them pregnant.
Canceled.
While never holding a job, Wesson forced the older children to scrounge for money and food.
I really hope something happens to this fucker.
He also ran welfare scams while moving the family from tents to trailers to makeshift shacks to abandoned buildings. For a while, they resided on board a rotting tugboat, which was the sailboat mentioned, that was their school.
It's on a cruise ship. It's like that show you guys like, the fucking Sweet Life on Deck.
The boat, in fact, got Wesson busted for fraud in 1989 after he didn't list it as an asset in his welfare forms. However, even during his brief jail time, Wesson still had domination over his wives and children. What's up with these people being in jail and still, like, controlling everyone while they're locked up?
That's how almost all of them are once they go to jail. They still got the followers.
So this went on for 10 years. Finally, while facing eviction in 2004, Wesson, which was age 57 at the time, announced his plan to transport the entire family from the unused office building to Fresno.
Wait, where were the kids when this was happening?
They were all over. He would just like pull them everywhere.
No, while he was in prison.
Oh, with the like the wives in whatever building.
I guess they were.
Put.
Jesus. If he would have stopped fucking his daughters and went out and got a job,
it would be like, okay. So this went on for 10 years. Finally, while facing eviction in 2004, Wesson, which was 57 at the time, announced his plan to transport the entire family from the unused office building in Fresno to Washington State.
Maybe they're going to go see the Walla Walla Wallaby.
I really hate that you said that because I was really struggling with it.
Yeah, I know. We all witnessed. There's audio proof. We can listen to it. It's out there on the internet forever.
People like me, all right?
So you keep telling yourself that.
I will, because it's true.
I love you.
Sure you do. You love me sometimes.
This is not false.
Still, on June 17th, 2005, the jury cited Wesson's terrifying mental and emotional grip over the family and convicted him on 9 counts of first-degree murder, in addition to multiple charges of rape and incest. 10 days later, the judge sentenced Wesson to death. At first, Wesson's surviving family members defended him. That's how deep his manipulation was with these people.
Sure. Honestly, yes, he manipulated them, but he did. That was like fucking fish in a barrel. They did not know
Anything
a life
else.
outside of that.
Right. And that's like, there's several quotes stating like they didn't know.
They had no clue.
And the one daughter's children like still suffer from having this last name because people are so cruel and like they don't understand. And that's the story of the Weston family. But
I can honestly say I hated that. I mean, it was a good story. You did a good job, but
thanks.
like, fuck that man. Did he?
I know it was really
so
short.
he
but
was
like,
he sentenced to death?
Yeah,
or
he
was
sentenced to death.
So he's totally gone now.
Yeah.
He's Gonzo. All right, what's his Gonzo? Wasn't that the name of that Muppet bitch? It
no.
certainly is, and I did not mean to disrespect you like that, Gonzo,
Marcus
my pal.
Wesson. Wait till you see him. I just can't.
Oh, my dreads.
You know, the crazy part is that like, you don't think that
Oh, wait, is this his whole family in this picture?
sure is all them kids. So the crazy part to me is like, okay, yes, he was abused by his father, and that could be why he like
Right,
was like
right.
okay with like, you know, fucking his daughter, which is not right. But like, I also feel like, now I'm not saying anything, I'm just putting this out there. Like, I feel like the drilling of religion and devotion of God really made him hate it. So in turn, it made him like mentally ill. So
Yeah.
then he made himself God because maybe he couldn't stand that there was like someone else like bigger than him or better than him. I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like you're onto something. I feel like it just like runs even deeper than that to things that we probably can't grasp. We can pretend we know, but I'm just a little girl trying to make a podcast.
But there's endless quotes of basically his family like talking about how he sexually assaulted them. Basically how he was just on a rampage of like, I am God, you need to like believe this or you will die, basically. So I feel like in turn it's like, one, it was the fact that they were raised this way, but two, it was just like the fear of it. Like, okay, let's say I don't believe him and I get out, like where am I going?
Yeah.
Because they don't know like civilization, they don't know civilization, so like they don't know like there are like outlets for them, you know.
Yeah.
They don't know that.
Yeah.
So I feel like it was like, okay, well, this is better than nothing type thing.
This is it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Like, you know, they didn't have TV. They didn't have any outlet to believe like, oh, there's other stuff out there. There's like good people.
This isn't what the world is about.
Right. They didn't know.
All they knew was like the Bible and that he was
Not even the Bible. It was his version of the Bible.
Oh,
so
sorry.
That's even worse. Because I'm sure he said God was a vampire. So.
Oh yeah, God was a fucking vampire, and you know Judas was a Care Bear. Well, he
Yeah.
was.
Believe me, I'm Marcus Wesson. Okay. He's going to haunt me in my nightmares.
Probably, dude. That man is scary. That family is fucked. Cults, don't do them.
Yeah, guys.
Knock knock. Who's there? Cult leader? No, thank you.
Do you know there is a cult in Philadelphia?
Is there?
It's
Should
like-
you say the name of it?
I'm not saying the name, but it's like on Market. It's like close. My friend's girlfriend's friend was in it, and they asked her to be in it, and she was like, "I'm good, but I might check it out." But it's like close.
Do they pay well?
Maybe should we go check it out?
I mean, if they're hiring,
Let's do it.
I got time. No, I'm away this weekend.
You are. Oh my God, everyone! It's Jonathan's birthday, February 18th. Shout out to you! Happy birthday! You are the greatest friend I've ever had.
Thank you. I think that's the day after this podcast goes up.
Oh man,
Thank you.
It's okay.
Well, damn. To lighten the
That was a
mood,
lot.
do you want to take a quiz with me and find out what kind of cult we should join?
Yes, I love quizzes.
Except for the pop quizzes in school. Like, frick that.
I actually never got those.
You never got a pop quiz? I swear I always got a pop quiz when, like, I didn't do the homework or
When
the
I didn't
reading.
know shit.
Okay, so this is, whoops, I'm knocking my mic everywhere. So this is, what cult should you join? Or what kind of cult should you join? What is your income like? I barely get by. Life is a struggle. I do okay, but I spend most of my money on nerdy stuff. Meh. I don't really worry. We're all gonna die soon anyway.
If you don't choose that, you're a liar, because that's all you say.
I honestly say that all the time, and I do not mean it in like a depressing way, but literally anytime something happens, I'm like, honestly, we're all gonna die anyway, so it's whatever. I'd say I'm fairly well off for someone like me. I make enough money, but it never seems to be enough. Or I'm wealthy. I'm going to say we're all going to die soon anyway.
Thank you. I'm going to say I make enough money, but it never seems to be enough because it never does.
Okay, so pick a sitcom. Oh, no, sorry. You go ahead. Sorry.
Pick a sitcom. 30 Rock, The Office. For those of you who don't know, The Office is based out of my hometown. Please, when I say I'm from Scranton, Pennsylvania, do not say like The Office.
Okay, side story. When I picked her up to record the last podcast or the one before, we go to Wawa. She goes to the bathroom, comes out, and she shows me a picture, and it's literally the door of the fucking bathroom in Wawa, and it says Made in Scranton. I was like, why are you showing me this? She's like, that's where I'm from. I was like, Sarah, I know. She's like, isn't that cool? I was like, I mean, you have the Office, but Wawa bathroom doors are cool too.
Community, The Big Bang Theory, It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, The Mindy Project. I don't like any of these shows.
I don't like any of them either. I know. Fuck. Okay, so I don't like It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia because my very first roommate, the first year at our school, he was a little scary. He showed me the machete that he slept with, and I was actually a roommate with him. Like, we shared a room together. Do you remember him, Dan? Oh shit, I should bleep that out. John, bleep that out. So he stopped going to classes. Then his medication went missing. He told me that I was the one who took his medication.
Oh no, you're gonna get shot with machete.
And he would, every night he would fall asleep watching the DVD, like first season of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. And then when it got to the last episode, it would go back to the main title menu, which would play the theme song at such a loud decibel. But I was so scared to turn it off because I thought he slept with a machete, like in the same room. Like, what do you need a machete for?
No, you
Why?
do not.
And that was like my first taste of life outside of high school.
I'm going to say The Big Bang Theory.
Oh, I really don't really like any of them. The Office is funny, so I'm going to pick The Office.
The Office is so dry. Are you joking?
My throat is so dry right now.
My throat hurts.
Oh God, the question I never wanted to ask. What's holding you back in life?
All the above.
Sometimes I feel like my entire life is out of control.
Same, me.
I procrastinate, and as a result, I can't seem to get my work done.
Drag me.
I'm not as popular and famous as I deserve to be.
Oh, flips here. That's not me.
I suffer from self-doubt and a lack of self-esteem. I fight with my friends too much, or I'm a pessimist.
Damn. Well, why did they come for me in the first three of these?
I'm going to say probably I procrastinate.
I'm going to say that. You shouldn't pick that because you do not procrastinate.
I don't procrastinate
you
with
don't
certain
sit down.
things. That's true. But the other things that
sometimes I feel like my entire life is out of control.
Thanks, Sarah. Go ahead and fucking put me on goddamn blast. Perfect. There, I picked it. You happy? Fuck me. Don't pick the next one. It's a Qdoba advertisement.
Oh my God, I almost clicked that.
But let's do it anyway. What do you want to smother you with Qdoba's new cilantro chimichanga sauce?
Oh, I don't like
Mucho
chimichanga
delicioso
sauce.
chicken. No, everything else in my life, and steak, of course. Well, I'm a vegetarian, so you get skipped.
I did the scrimp. Oh, you have different questions. I said burritos with fire roasted shrimp.
If I would have got scrimp, I would have picked. No, I'm a vegan now. I'm a vegan. Did I tell you guys in the last episode? I'm a vegan now. In case you haven't heard.
Okay, I already know what you're gonna choose.
I'm totally just fucking kidding.
For the next one, I could already see it. I already know what you're
All right,
gonna pick.
name it, and then I'm gonna tell you what I'm gonna pick. And
You're
then...
gonna pick this.
Don't tell me. Don't. Go.
So, the first picture is.
Okay, it says choose a pattern. You didn't even tell them.
I was gonna do it.
Choose a pattern.
I think they could get that it's patterns after the fact.
Go ahead.
It is a. It looks like wood, maybe. It's black and gray.
It's literally black and gray stripes.
Okay, it's wood.
Sarah, it's fucking stripes.
And then it's a flowery abyss for the second one.
It's a floral pattern.
Stop. Then we're looking at some tiger stripes, some orange and black.
That's hair.
And then for the next one, we're looking at some skulls with some flowers. It's got a gray scale to it.
It kind of looks like a bandana.
Super chic. And then we got some I'm gonna call it like Josie and the Pussycats type blue.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say Josie and the
black.
Pussy, or like Gem and the Holograms.
Yes, Gem and the Holograms. And then we have Jonathan's favorite. It is a
Fuck you! Fuck you!
black and gold scale with some symbols.
Actually, let me tell you exactly what it is. If you have listened to Lana Del
It
Rey's,
looks like the Great Gatsby.
it is from Lana Del Rey, the Young and Beautiful cover. That's what it is, and I'm gonna pick that one. I was stuck between that one or
Which
the
one
Gem
did
and
I
the
pick?
Holograms.
If you know me, we've been friends for 6
The
years.
floral one.
Oh, you know me.
Okay, so which of these conspiracy theories is actually true?
Oh,
We've made contact with aliens, but the FBI covers it up.
same.
Our sun will die out and freeze all life on Earth.
Yep,
Isn't
that's
that
right.
Isn't that like a scientific fact?
Yeah,
Anyway, the government is poisoning our food to keep us docile.
that's true.
A super volcano might erupt and kill us.
That will happen.
Pop stars are hiding satanic lyrics in their songs.
They are.
There's a secret society of celebrities who control the media.
Well, why did they come for like every popular conspiracy theory?
Literally all of them. Okay, which of them is actually true? I'm going to say...
The sun.
Yeah, it has to be the sun. Except they're all true, for the record.
They are. So if any of you don't think so, click off Barbara. Barbara. Do you remember that?
Barbara.
I won't ever forget it.
What's Barbara?
All right. Side note, this will be a quick story. So I was hanging out with this guy one time, and he was super interested in the fact that I did this podcast. So he was like, "Oh, you should look up Barbara something," and I'm like,
Oh, it's Barbara.
I was like, Barbara. I was like, I can't find anything. He's like, and he's getting really angry and shouting at me like, Barbara, like, and I was like, do you mean Barbara? Needless to say, we never talked again because Barbara is not a friend of mine.
Barb deserved better.
So what do you waste most of your money on? Takeout, video games, alcohol, shiny gadgets, movies, and TV box sets, clothes. Can I put takeout, video games, alcohol, and clothes? I'm going to say clothes.
I'm going to say alcohol.
All right.
Ooh.
What did you get?
I got Scientology.
Oh,
You're one of the special few chosen by Xenu to ascend to a higher state of mind. You are so lucky. You get to give all your money to Tom Cruise. Never say anything bad about your church or you'll be quietly disappeared. Fuck, man.
Okay, I got a weird pop culture cult. Rescue Rangers? They said that I would, worship them. You have lots to choose from. There's the Russian cult of Gadget Hack Wrench, who worships the mouse character from Rescue Rangers.
You have the cool one.
Who is worshipping a character from Rescue Rangers? Not I.
Not yet, but after you go through initiation, you bitch. Welcome to the cult. Thank you guys so much for listening.
I just want to say something. I took a quiz and I found out I'm 100% that bitch. So, shout out to me.
You took like a MASH quiz. You remember those? You used to make those. Anyway,
and it said 100% that bitch.
Thank you guys.
Thanks, guys, for listening.
Bye.
Bye.